Jensen, the big dog at Nvidia, Nvidia CEO, went on, spoke about Tesla yesterday in this video, went to speak about Nvidia, kind of the future, what's happening here. I think it's a very important interview to react to. Alrighty, let's get in this.
Yahoo Finance's Market Domination, here with our tech editor, Dan Howley. Nvidia has done it again. The chip giant blowing past analyst expectations in its strong fiscal first quarter. Data center revenue alone soaring by 427% year over year. And the company also gave another bullish sales forecast, which shows that AI spending momentum continues apace. On top of all that, the company also announced a 10-for-1 forward stock split and raised its dividend. Joining us now, Nvidia founder and CEO Jensen Huang, fresh off the conference call. Jensen, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us.
I'm happy to be here. Nice to see you guys.
You too. I want to start with Blackwell, which is your next generation chip. It's shipping this year, you said on the call. You also said on the call, we will see a lot of Blackwell revenue this year. So if we're looking at about $28 billion in revenue in the current quarter, and Blackwell is a more expensive product than Hopper, the chip series out now, what does that imply about revenue in the fourth quarter and for the full year?
Well, it should be significant. Yeah, Blackwell, and as you know, we guide one quarter at a time. And but what I could tell you about Blackwell is this. This is a giant leap in AI, and it was designed for trillion parameter AI models. And this is, as you know, we're already at 2 trillion parameters. Model sizes are growing, about doubling every 6 months, and the amount of processing between the size of the model, the amount of data is growing 4 times. And so the ability for these data centers to keep up with these large models really depends on the technology that we bring to them. And so the Blackwell is designed also for incredibly fast inferencing. And inference used to be about recognition of things, but now inferencing, as you know, is about generation of information, generative AI. And so whenever you're talking to ChatGPT and it's generating information for you or drawing a picture for you or recognizing something and then drawing something for you, that generation is a brand new inferencing technology, is really, really complicated and requires a lot of performance. And so Blackwell is designed for large models, for generative AI, and we designed it to fit into any data center. And so it's air-cooled, liquid-cooled, x86, or this new revolutionary processor we designed called Grace Blackwell Superchip. And then, supports InfiniBand data centers like we used to, but we also now support a brand new type of data center, Ethernet. We're going to bring AI to Ethernet data centers. So the number of ways that you could deploy Blackwell is way, way higher than Hopper generation. So I'm excited about that.
So the important thing to understand about this whole situation, very important everybody understands this, is he's speaking about this Blackwell chip right now, right? And that's what's going to get a lot of the talk over the next few quarters. But just understand that this time next year, they'll be talking about some other new chip. And the next year, they'll be talking about some other new chip. And so the innovation pipeline at NVIDIA is very, very strong. They're going to continue to obviously come out with better and better chips over these coming years, right? So just a little food for thought in regards to that. So everybody thinks like, okay, they got this exciting product. Does it end? No, it never really actually ends.
I want to talk about the inferencing, Jensen. Some analysts have brought up the idea that as we move over towards inferencing from the training, that there may be some in-house companies, processors from companies, those made from Microsoft, Google, Amazon, may be more suited for the actual inferencing. I guess, how does that impact NVIDIA then?
Well, inferencing used to be easy. When people started talking about inference, generative AI didn't exist. And now generative AI is of course, is about prediction, but it's about prediction of the next token or prediction of the next pixel or prediction of the next frame. And all of that is complicated. And generative AI is also used for understanding in order to generate the content properly, you have to understand the context and what is called memory. And so now the memory size is incredibly large, and you have to have context memory. You have to be able to generate the next token really, really fast. It takes a whole lot of tokens to make an image. It takes a ton of tokens to make a video, and it takes a lot of tokens to be able to reason about a particular task so that it can make a plan. And so the generative AI era really made inference a million times more complicated. And as you know, the number of chips that were intended for inference kind of fell by the wayside, and now people are talking about building new chips. The versatility of NVIDIA's architecture makes it possible for people to continue to innovate and create these amazing new AIs. And then now Blackwell's coming.
So in other words, you think you still have a competitive advantage even as the market sort of shifts to inferencing?
We have a great position in inference because inference is just a really complicated problem. And the software stack is complicated. The type of models that people use is complicated. There's so many different types. It's going to be a giant market opportunity for us. The vast majority of the world's inferencing today, as people are experiencing in their data centers and on the web, vast majority of the inferencing today is done on NVIDIA. And so I expect that to continue.
You said on the call a couple of times that you'll be supply constrained for both Hopper and then Blackwell chips well until next year because of the vast demand that's out there. What can you do about that? Are there any sort of levers you can pull to help increase supply?
Hopper demand grew throughout this quarter.
Hopper demand grew throughout this quarter. Boom, bear case. Absolutely decimated. You're done. You're done. You're done, bears. You're donezy. Oh my gosh. The fact that Hopper demand grew throughout the quarter, people said, oh, no one's going to care about Hopper now. Oh, Blackwell, blah, blah, blah. Oh my gosh. The bears, they keep trying to justify how they lose all this money in Nvidia. They lost 100%, then they lost another 100%, and another 100%, and another 100%.
It's Blackwell. And so that kind of tells you how much demand there is out there. People want to deploy these data centers right now. They want to put our GPUs to work right now and start making money and start saving money. And so that demand is just so strong. It's really important to take a step back and realize that what we build is not a GPU chip. We call it Blackwell and we call it GPU, but we're really building AI factories. These AI factories have CPUs and GPUs and really complicated memory. The systems are really complicated. It's connected by NVLink. There's an NVLink switch. There's InfiniBand switches, InfiniBand NICs, and then now we have Ethernet switches and Ethernet NICs. And all of this connected together with this incredibly complicated spine called NVLink. And then the amount of software that it takes to build all this and run all this is incredible. So these AI factories are essentially what we build. We build it as a holistic unit, as a holistic architecture and platform, but then we disaggregate it so that our partners could take it and put it into data centers of any kind. And every single cloud has slightly different architectures and different stacks, and our stacks and our architecture can now deeply integrate into theirs, but everybody's a little different. So we build it as an AI factory. We then disaggregate it so that everybody can have AI factories. This is just an incredible thing, and we do this at very high volume. It's just very, very hard to do. And so every component, every part of our data center is the most complex computer the world's ever made, and so it's sensible that almost everything is constrained.
Jensen, I want to ask about the cloud providers versus the other industries that you said are getting into the generative AI game or getting NVIDIA chips. You had mentioned that in comments in the actual release, and then we heard from CFO Colette Kress that 40%, mid 40% of data center revenue comes from those cloud providers. As we start to see these other industries open up, what does that mean for NVIDIA? Will the cloud providers kind of shrink, I guess, their share? And then will these other industries pick up where those cloud providers were?
I expect them both to grow. A couple of different areas, of course. The consumer internet service providers. This last quarter, of course, big stories from Meta. The incredible scale that Mark is investing in. Llama 2 was a breakthrough. Llama 3 was even more amazing. They're creating models that are activating large language model and generative AI work all over the world. And so the work that Meta is doing is really, really important. You also saw Elon talking about the incredible infrastructure that he's building. One of the things that's really revolutionary about the version 12 of Tesla's full self-driving is that it's an end-to-end generative model. And it learns from watching videos, surround video, and it learns about how to drive end to end and using generative AI. Predict the path and the how to steer the how to understand and how to steer the car. And so the technology is really revolutionary, and the work that they're doing is incredible. So I gave you two examples. A startup company that we work with called
Listen, this is why Elon Musk and Tesla have the whole vision laid out. Okay, it's very important everybody understands this. If you're a truly really good safe driver, okay, on the road, why are you a really good, safe driver? The reason being is not only are you able to react if something happens on the roadway that's unexpected, but you're able to predict what is likely going to happen. If you're truly a great driver, and there's probably some people watching us right now, you consider yourself a great driver, you've probably never been in an accident in your life that was ever your fault, right? Why are you a good driver? It's because you're able to predict what's likely to happen. Oh, that guy, I could tell he's going to want to get over in this lane, so I'm going to adjust my car, properly. I can see that person over there is on their phone. They don't look like they're paying attention. They're swerving in and out of lanes. Let me slow up a little bit here. They're not clearly not paying attention to the road right now, right? Oh, that pedestrian, they look a little crazy, like they're just going to cross the road at any moment, right? You're able to see things and predict what's likely to happen, right? That's what makes a actually really great driver on the road, right? That will probably go through their life and never be in an accident, or maybe one accident in their life and probably never being part of one that is actually their fault, right? And it's being attentive to everything that's going on and taking everything into account, which is a lot of stuff to take into account. You don't even realize how much stuff you're actually taking into account, right? And so when people talk about LiDAR is going to fix things, no. LiDAR is not. If you have just LiDAR, you're just being like something happens, I got to adjust and make this move over here. The roads are so unpredictable, and that's how accidents happen. Because things that, weren't supposed to happen all of a sudden happen, right? The truck's driving down the highway, and a big piece of steel falls off of it, and next thing you know, you got a hazard in the roadway, and you got to adjust for that, right? You need to be able to predict these things out before they happen, plus be good. And also, if something you didn't expect happens, reacting to that as well. That's the magic there, right? And so that's what Tesla's actually doing. And that's what makes Tesla a leader in this space overall. It's very important how Jensen's describing this here.
Elon talking about the incredible infrastructure that he's building. And one of the things that's really revolutionary about the version 12 of Tesla's full self-driving is that it's an end-to-end generative model. And it learns from watching videos, surround video, and it learns about how to drive end to end and using generative AI. Predict the path and the how to steer the how to understand and how to steer the car. And so the technology is really revolutionary, and the work that they're doing is incredible. So I gave you two examples. A startup company that we work with called Recursion has built up a supercomputer for generating molecules, understanding proteins and generating molecules for drug discovery. The list goes on. I mean, we can go on all afternoon, and just so many different areas of people who are now recognizing that we now have software and AI model that can understand and learn almost any language. The language of English, of course, but the language of images and video and chemicals and protein and even physics, and to be able to generate almost anything. And so it's basically
if you're wondering why is Nvidia suddenly the most valuable company in the world, or getting close to the most valuable company, and don't be surprised if they're not the most valuable company in the world within the next month or so, right? Well, it's not just about the revenue. It's not just about the net income. It's just when you look at this company, one, no one can compete with them as of right now, right? Secondly, they're disrupting industry by industry by industry and helping these massive companies solve massive problems. And so you get paid very well. There's a great kind of saying out there about business. If you want to get rich, right, you can attack it a couple different ways. One is you can help let's call it people that don't have a ton of money, but you need to help a massive amount of them. Another way you can get rich is fix some rich people problems. Now, if you want to get beyond rich as a company, you help solve massive problems for massive companies, because massive companies have massive problems they're trying to solve, and those companies also have massive amounts of money, right? And so that's how you can become insanely rich as a company overall. And if you look at what Nvidia is doing, what are they doing? They're helping solve problems for the biggest, most powerful companies in the world, which then in return ends up making them the most powerful company in the world, right? Incredible.
Machine translation. And that capability is now being deployed at scale in so many different industries.
Jensen, just one more quick last question. I'm glad you talked about the auto business and what you're seeing there. You mentioned that automotive is now the largest vertical enterprise.
This is huge for Tesla. Get ready to have your socks knocked straight off.
Within data center.
Nike
you talked
socks
about the
too.
Tesla business, but what is that all about? Is it self-driving among other automakers too? Are there other functions that automakers are using within data center? Help us understand that a little bit better.
Well, Tesla is far ahead in self-driving cars.
Tesla is far ahead in self-driving cars. The biggest statement you could have wanted to hear ever right there if you're a Tesla shareholder is the CEO that is the foremost expert in the entire world about AI, about these systems, saying your company is by far the leader. My gosh, it doesn't get bigger than that.
Within data center, you talked about the Tesla business, but what is that all about? Is it self-driving among other automakers too? Are there other functions that automakers are using within data center? Help us understand that a little bit better.
Well, Tesla is far ahead in self-driving cars, but every single car someday will have to have autonomous capability. It's safer, it's more convenient, it's more fun to drive, and in order to do that, it is now very well known, very well understood that learning from video directly is the most effective way to train these models. We used to train based on images that are labeled. We would say, this is a car. This is a car, this is a sign, this is a road. And we would label that manually. It's incredible. And now we just put video right into the car and let the car figure it out by itself. And this technology is very similar to the technology of large language models, but it requires just an enormous training facility. And the reason for that is because the data rate of video, the amount of data of video is so high. Well, the same approach that's used for learning physics, the physical world from videos that's used for self-driving cars is essentially the same AI technology used for grounding large language models to understand the world of physics. So technologies that are like Sora, which is just incredible, and other technologies, VO from Google, incredible. The ability to generate video that makes sense, that are conditioned by human prompt, that needs to learn from video. And so the next generation of AIs need to be grounded in physical AI, needs to understand the physical world. And the best way to teach these AIs how the physical world behaves is through video, just watching tons and tons and tons of video. And so the combination of this multimodality training capability is going to really require a lot of computing demand in the years to come.
Let's get into Nvidia, which is having an absolutely epic day.
More on the tech rally and her top picks. Joanne Feeney, she's the portfolio manager at Advisors Capital Management. Joanne, let's start off with Nvidia as it approaches a $2.8 trillion market value. Has it gotten ahead of itself?
It's going to be the biggest.
Yeah, I don't think so, David. I mean, it's always the case that, a stock's price will build in its future, right? And its future growth prospects are really quite impressive. But to put it in perspective, notice that Nvidia's earnings over the last year have gone up 460%. Its stock has gone up 250%, but earnings, are leading the way. And so actually the multiples come down in the last year. Nevertheless, right, the stock continues to rise on expectations that its growth will be more long lasting than for many other companies in the market that investors can own. So that's why the stock is where it is, and we do see an awful lot of growth ahead of it. Competition is coming, but it's going to take some years. for that competition inroads.
Yeah. And what else then? I mean, to the extent that obviously we sit here and talk so often about this opportunity when it comes to to generative AI, beyond Nvidia, Joanne, are there other names that you think are particularly the greatest beneficiaries?
Well, there's a lot of ways one can invest around AI. Obviously, the picks and shovels through Nvidia is one way, but another way in that same group is a company like an AMD, which is developed.
I knew it. I was like, how long till they mention AMD? Okay, so AMD, great company. We all know this, right? The issue with AMD, I'm going to show you guys. There's actually two issues with AMD. This is the first one, okay? The forward P on AMD is higher than Nvidia, despite numbers that are horrible compared to Nvidia, right? In positioning in the market, that's not even remotely close to as attractive as Nvidia. So that's one issue in regards to AMD. The second issue is the growth rates have been very, very sad in regards to AMD. A lot of people, especially this past quarter, I think was a huge disappointment to a lot of folks. Because you looked at those AMD numbers, you were expecting to show significant growth, and they came in with these little teeny numbers, and it's like, what is going on, AMD? That's because two of their businesses are in a very bad spot right now. So data center was trying to make up for it, but the numbers were not impressive at all in regards to AMD. And so that's the issue with AMD is you're paying the same multiple, but it's like, why would you buy AMD over Nvidia? Why would you buy the number 2 instead of the number 1, right? Why would you not want to be the company that's branded as the true AI company, not like the other company? At the end of the day, you usually want to pay up for the best of the bunch. And if you compare, AMD is a great company, but if you compare them against Nvidia, they're not as good. They're not. And so would you want to own a inferior company at roughly the same forward P? I don't know. That's where things get difficult here in regards to this, right? I like AMD. I wouldn't be surprised if the stock does, pretty decent over the coming years. But the bottom line is, if you got to own one, why not go with the best, the true best, man? That's bottom line in regards to that. By the way, speaking about going with the best, what I'm showing you here, this is 1000xstocks.com. If you would like to apply for access for this, you can go to 1000xstocks.com and fill an application. We'll see if we can get you in the product. Right now, we have the comparison feature. All this usually takes 30 minutes to 45 minutes to do this. You can do it in a matter of seconds, compare stocks all against each other and all these different metrics. We're working on adding another 14 metrics, hopefully looking to get that up this week or next week. We're also looking to add many other features. We now have earnings calls on the service, so you can type in, Nvidia, listen to their conference call. We have transcripts on here now as well. You can focus on just one stock in the metrics if you want, right? And then additionally, we're working on several things behind the scenes that I want to talk about right now that are big things. So we will be going up on the price in the future. So, if you were looking to get into the product, let's just put it financially, you're incentivized to get in now rather than wait 6 months, 12 months, because, pricing will continue to go up on that as we add more and more new features.
Chips coming out this year to do also some work in AI, more on the inference side. But that's a real opportunity, and they continue to gain share against Intel and servers and PCs. But beyond that, look at a company like Broadcom. It's more diversified. Yeah, it's not only in the
Stephanie Link's favorite
but
stock.
It's also enabling AI inference chips with collaboration with Google. So, that's an opportunity. Plus, they're diversified into enterprise, into cloud. They have yet to reports coming up in a couple of weeks. Look for some weakness on the cloud and enterprise side, but their opportunity in AI is really quite strong, and they generally have very high margin businesses because of their deep technology moats.
I know we're in growth mode for all these companies in terms of adoption and demand, but how do you think about the sustainability of revenue growth for some of these companies that are in early, and how long that lasts?
Sarah, it's so interesting to look at those Nvidia numbers as just an exclamation point on how the world has changed. You look at their growth last quarter, 460% earnings growth. Boy, that's going to drop an awful lot this quarter. It's only going to be 260% earnings growth. But this is just this big step up change in the opportunity ahead of them. A year from now, Nvidia earnings are likely to be growing at 25 to 30%, and that's in expectations. Other companies that are just getting involved, right, will not see the same kind of step up. This really was a unique opportunity for Nvidia. But, look into the software side, too. A company like ServiceNow, which we own in our growth strategy, is a company that's deploying applications enabled by AI. And so it's really hard to sort of get your head around some of these multiples because a lot of the earnings and the cash flow is ahead of these companies. And so, this is an unusual time. It does take thoughtfulness about which companies really have developed applications that customers are paying for. So those are a few examples.
Hey, Joanne, there's been some chatter that to the degree that there's a risk of a melt up, a lot of that's going to come from retail participating a lot more in equities. We've got these Robinhood metrics we watch. The memes are back. Nvidia's splitting 10 for 1. Are you in that school?
Yeah, we tend to think that the market's going to be driven, more by the institutional investor. I think that the 10 for 1 split at Nvidia and other companies that have done something similar really helps the employees. It enables them to give them, stock options, et cetera, in the company. And we think that's useful and certainly helpful for retail investors to be able to own some of these things in their portfolios. But, overall, what we're watching more broadly is the strength of the consumer. And while they don't have that big stockpile of savings to work off of, they still are, basically seeing a world in which they can get jobs if they want them, where their nominal wages are still keeping now ahead of inflation. So the spending power of the consumer is still pretty solid. But on the flip side, there are those concerns about how much they're borrowing against, paydays coming up in the future through those new apps. There's concerns about, credit card balances, although relative to income, they're not at high levels. But some segments of the consumer are clearly suffering. And we're seeing that in the reports from some of the retailers who are talking about a little bit more price sensitivity among their shoppers.
Yeah, newsflash. Folks that have payday loans aren't moving the market. Like this expectation that retail can move the market and they're moving the market. No, not at this point in time. During Rona, different situation, stimulus, everybody at home, all those sorts of things. But to be trying to even make some sort of case around that right now, it's just utterly ridiculous.